Tonight on First at 9, this Tuesday the 8th of October 2024. Expressing objection. Government to reject UNHRC's 51/1 resolution tomorrow. Require a fresh mandate to implement new government's policies on human rights, says the Foreign Minister. Cabinet decisions. Sri Lanka to request BRICS membership at the upcoming summit. Adani wind power agreement to be subjected to a review. Revealed. CID reveals another scandal of the Health Ministry. Loss incurred amounts to 97 million rupees, says the Attorney General's Department. Parliamentary election. 77 political parties eligible to contest the poll. 6 parties barred from contesting, says the Election Commission.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
වැඩිම මනාපෙන් ජනතා තේරීම මෙවරත්
සුදේශී ඔරිජිනල් කුහුඹම තමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. Now, in your top story making headlines tonight, Sri Lanka will object to Resolution 51/1 adopted by the United Nations Human Rights Council in October 2022 with regard to the underlying causes of the economic crisis, including impunity for human rights, violations and economic crimes at the Council's 57th regular session in Geneva tomorrow. Commenting on this matter, Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath said that the government cannot agree with most of the resolution's content. While highlighting the government's commitment to protect human rights, Herath noted that the government is expecting to implement new measures for the purpose, however adding that it requires a new mandate.
The 57th regular session of the United Nations Human Rights Council commenced on the 9th of September in Geneva in Switzerland. On that day, at the interactive dialogue on the report prepared by the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights on Sri Lanka, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk, who delivered his remarks, noted that the newly elected administration must commit to the concrete transformational changes needed to ensure accountability, justice and reconciliation. He also urged Sri Lanka to break from its past and chart a new path forward. Further, the UN Human Rights Chief noted that the government must implement significant security sector reform, including holding to account those individuals implicated in serious violations. Meanwhile, tomorrow at the general debate of the 57th UNHRC session, Sri Lanka is expecting to reject Resolution 51/1, which was adopted by the Human Rights Council at its 51st session held on the 6th of October 2022. Through Resolution 51/1, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights encourages the international community to support Sri Lanka in its recovery from the crisis, however highlights the need to address the underlying causes of the crisis, including impunity for human rights violations and economic crimes. The resolution, which was approved in the Council with the support of 20 countries, requests the Office of the High Commissioner to enhance its monitoring and reporting on the situation of human rights in Sri Lanka, including the progress in reconciliation and accountability and the impact of the economic crisis and corruption of human rights. It also requests the office to present an oral update with this regard to the Human Rights Council at its 53rd and 55th sessions, a written update at its 54th session, and a comprehensive report that includes further options for advancing accountability at its 57th session, both to be discussed in the context of an interactive dialogue. Speaking at the cabinet briefing today, Minister of Foreign Affairs Vijitha Herath explained the steps that will be taken by the government to express their objection to the resolution.
We express our objection to Resolution 51/1. A new president has been elected and an election has been called to elect a new parliament. The policies of the new government consist of measures necessary to protect human rights as mentioned in the resolution. The formation of a new government is necessary to implement those policies. We will inform the Human Rights Council in Geneva of this fact. We cannot agree with most of the resolution's content. In order to protect human rights, the new government is expecting to implement new measures. We need some time for that implementation. We expect to inform them of this.
අලුත් ක්‍රියාමාර්ගවලට යන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඒ සඳහා යම් කාලයක් අපිට අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. ඒ පිළිබඳව දැනුවත් කිරීම අපි හෙට දවසේදී කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. හෙට තමයි ඊළඟ සැසිවාරයේ අවසන් සැසිවාරයේ පැවැත්වෙන්නේ.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now. චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මන අපේ සිග TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
Welcome to Cinnamon Life, South Asia's biggest entertainment hub, where awe awaits.
Sri Lanka will request membership of BRICS at the Organisation Summit scheduled to be held in Russia later this month. Meanwhile, the Cabinet of Ministers during their second meeting approved the signing of an agreement with Russia for cooperation and mutual administration of customs matters. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Vijitha Herath stated that the government will not take action regarding the agreement with India's Adani Corporation regarding the wind power plant in Manna pending legal proceedings, adding that the matter will only be addressed after the general election. Sri Lanka will enter into an agreement with Russia for cooperation and mutual administration of customs matters. Cabinet spokesperson Minister Vijitha Herath stated that a delegation from the Foreign Ministry will visit Russia at the end of this month, where the BRICS summit will be held to request membership of the organisation.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාව හා රුසියාව අතර රේගු කටයුතු සම්බන්ධිත
Approval was granted to the agreement between Sri Lanka and Russia to obtain support for cooperation and mutual administration on customs matters. This MOU is intended to strengthen trade ties with regard to customs matters. Following the signing of the customs MOU, the relevant trade agreement will be signed. The BRICS summit will be held by the end of this month. A Sri Lankan delegation headed by the Secretary to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will participate in the summit. We expect to request BRICS membership at that summit.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට BRICS සමාජිකත්වය ඉල්ලා සිටිමු.
අදාළ ගිවිසුම සම්බන්ධයෙන් වත්මන් පාලනයේ අදහස මොකක්ද ඔබතුමා?
අපි ඒ ගිවිසුමේ තියෙන වාසි අවාසි සාකච්ඡා කළ යුතුව තියෙනවා. දැනට උසාවියේ පිළිබඳ නඩු කටයුත්තකුත් තියෙනවා. එහි විශේෂ ප්‍රශ්නේ මතුවුනේ ඒකකයක් මිලදී ගන්න මුදලේ වැඩිකම ඒ පිළිබඳව සමාලෝචනය කරලා තමයි අවසන් තීරණයක් ගන්නෙ. ඒ පිළිබඳව කිසිදු තීරණයක් මේ සංක්‍රමණීය කාලය තුල අපි කරන්නේ නැහැ.
නැවත නෙගෝෂියේටර්ස් අපි එනවා.
ඒක අපි අලුත් ආණ්ඩුව බලයට පත් වුණාට පස්සේ තමයි මේ පිළිබඳව කටයුතු කරන්නේ. දැනට ඇත්තටම ඒ ක්‍රියාවලිය සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. එකක් තමයි මහජන උපයෝගිතා කොමිසමෙන් ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච යම් කරුණු තියෙනවා. උසාවියේ ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච කරුණු තියෙනවා. විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලයේ නිලධාරීන්ගේ ඉදිරිපත් වෙච්ච අදහස් තියෙනවා. ඉතින් සියල්ල සාකච්ඡා කරලා තමයි ඒ තීරණ ගන්න.
The Cabinet of Ministers also made several other key decisions during their second meeting yesterday. Approval was granted to sign a Memorandum of Understanding with the United Nations World Food Programme for the implementation of its regional project to strengthen the climate change resilience of communities in Sri Lanka and India. The two nations are to receive $13 million from the World Food Programme for the project. Approval was also granted to appoint a committee to submit a report on the technological requirements for the implementation of the digital terrestrial television broadcasting project. The Japan International Cooperation Agency has agreed to provide the funds required for the project, which will see Sri Lanka's existing analog television broadcasting converted to the digital format. In another decision, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the termination of service of the officers and consultants appointed to the Office for Overseas Sri Lankan Affairs and the National People's Council Secretariat. The officers were established under the President's office by the previous government, and the relevant employees were appointed on a contract basis. Government has made new appointments to the Department of Registration of Persons and Excise Department. MSP Surya Peruma is appointed as the Acting Commissioner General of Registration of Persons. The post fell vacant since September 24th after the then Commissioner General G. Pradeep Saputantri was appointed as the Prime Minister's Secretary. The new Acting Commissioner General of Registrations of Persons, MSP Surya Peruma, is a special grade officer of the Sri Lanka Administrative Service who currently is an additional secretary to the Ministry of Public Security. Meanwhile, Senior Special Grade Officer of the Inland Revenue Department, UDN Jayavira, was appointed Acting Commissioner General of the Excise Department with immediate effect. UDN Jayavira takes over office from JM Gunasiri, whose service was dismissed by the Cabinet of Ministers. Jayavira is serving as an additional secretary to the Presidential Secretariat. Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya highlighted the gravity of mental health issues among the youth and assured that the government is committed to enhancing Sri Lanka's mental health services, particularly for the country's youth. Speaking at a program held in commemoration of World Mental Health Day, the Premier highlighted that mental health issues must be addressed by identifying the factors that cause stress among the youth. A program in commemoration of World Mental Health Day was held at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute this morning.
දරුවන්ගේ මානසික සෞඛ්‍ය මේක අද වෙනකොට බරපතල ප්‍රශ්නයක්. සියදිවි නසා ගැනීම වලට තැන්.
The issue of children's mental health has become a serious threat at the moment. Suicides, suicidal attempts and self-harm have become prevalent in society today. As a result, such incidents are being reported on a daily basis. In such cases, it might be easy to criticize the schools, teachers and parents of the children, but it is imperative that we take this issue very seriously. We need to focus on the factors that cause stress for children. Additionally, counselling services, particularly for the country's youth, should be further enhanced. As a government, we will prioritize the establishment of this initiative.
අත්‍යවශ්‍ය දෙයක්. ඒ සඳහා රජයක් හැටියට අපේ එක ප්‍රමුඛතාවයක් වන බව මම ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න කැමැතියි.
National Executive Committee member of the National People's Power, Wasantha Samarasinghe, says his government has commenced investigations pertaining to a series of incidents, including the Easter Sunday terror attacks, the central bank bond scam and the assassinations of Lasantha Wickrematunge and Wasim Tajuddin. Addressing a media briefing today, Samarasinghe emphasised that steps will also be taken to investigate all incidents related to alleged misappropriation of state assets.
It has only been 2 weeks since the appointment of the new government. However, investigations have already commenced. Our rivals have panicked. Please do not be afraid. We have commenced investigations pertaining to the central bank bond scam, Easter Sunday terrorist attacks, the assassinations of Lasantha Wickrematunge and Tajuddin, the disappearance of Pragith Ignaligoda and the abduction of 11 Tamil youths. Further investigations related to the payments made for the substandard fertilizer shipment and the Abba scandal are ongoing. Namal Rajapaksa is of the view that the cases related to the offences they have committed will not be reopened. We will continue the investigations on the funds stolen by the Rajapaksas. Steps are being taken to investigate incidents related to alleged theft.
Sri Lanka decides 2024.
The Election Commission revealed that 9 recognised political parties and independent groups have already submitted their nominations in their respective districts for the upcoming general election. The election regulatory body also announced that 6 political parties that are facing issues regarding their general secretary positions will not be permitted to contest the general election. However, that 77 recognised political parties are eligible to contest the poll. Meanwhile, the deadline for accepting postal voting applications for the general election, which was scheduled to conclude today, was extended till midnight on the 10th of this month.
The acceptance of nominations for the 2024 general election commenced on the 4th of October, with the relevant activities being carried out at the district secretariats of the 22 electoral districts. Accordingly, the Election Commission announced that as of yesterday, the number of political parties and independent groups that have submitted nominations for the general election is 18. The nomination period will conclude on the 11th of October and independent candidates can place their deposits until that day. Meanwhile, the Election Commission announced that the deadline for accepting applications for postal voting, which ends at midnight tonight, was extended till midnight on the 10th of October. Accordingly, the election regulatory body further notified that applications should be submitted to the respective district election officers before midnight on the 10th of October. The Election Commission further noted that failure to apply for postal votes or rejection of applications due to certain defects is not a reason for exemption from election duties.
The acceptance of nominations for the upcoming general election will be concluded by 12 noon on the 11th of October. The filing of objections against nominations will be permitted from 12 noon to 1:30 p.m. on the same day. All candidates contesting the parliamentary election are required to declare their assets to the Election Commission. Accordingly, it is imperative that all candidates hand over the relevant documentation along with their nominations to the Election Commission.
Meanwhile, 6 political parties that are facing issues regarding their general secretary positions have lost the opportunity to contest this year's general election. Accordingly, the United People's Freedom Alliance, Eksat Lanka Pudujana Party, Eksat Lanka Mahasabha Party, Lanka Janata Party, Sri Lanka Progressive Front and Eelawar Democratic Front will not be able to contest the general election. However, the Election Commission noted that 77 recognized political parties are eligible to contest this year's parliamentary election.
Maubima Janata Party Chairman Roshan Ranasinghe was appointed as the Kalutara District Leader and Matugama Constituency Organiser of the Sarvajana Balaya. Speaking to the media, Ranasinghe highlighted that Sarvajana Balaya is the only political alliance capable of rebuilding the people's broken trust in the country's leaders. Meanwhile, leader of the MJP, Dilip Jayavira, assured to strengthen the patriotic nationalist political movement of the country.
Chairman of the Maubima Janata Party, Roshan Ranasinghe, was appointed as the Kalutara District Leader and the Matugama Constituency Organiser of the Sarvajana Balaya Alliance. The appointment was handed over by the MJP leader Dilip Jayavira at the party headquarters today. Meanwhile, Upali Jayasekara was appointed as Colombo District Leader of Sarvajana Balaya Alliance, while A.R. Dinendra took over as Colombo District Organiser. In addition, Prabhat Dialves was appointed as Ratnapura District Leader today. Other organisers were also appointed to several electoral districts.
අපි විශ්වාස කරන දේශප්‍රේමී ජාතිකවාදී දේශපාලනය ලංකාවේ
We are currently embarking on a triumphant journey by further demonstrating that the patriotic nationalist politics which we hold on to will never be eradicated from the country. We strongly believe that our nationalism can only be validated by creating a sustainable environment for a happy nation and an entrepreneurial state.
මේ සියල්ලටම අවශ්‍ය වන පසුබිම නිර්මාණය කරගන්නට වන්නේ අපේ මේ ජාතිකත්වය තහවුරු කර ගැනීමෙන් පමණයි.
මම මෙතනදී ඉස්සෙල්ලාම අවස්ථාවක් කරගන්න ඕන ඓතිහාසික පුලතිසි පුරවරය කොළොන්නරුවේ ජනතාව තමයි මාව මේ තැනට ගෙනාවේ.
I am grateful for the Maubima Janata Party and its leader Dilip Jayavira for believing in me. The success of a country relies on trust. The lack of trust in the leaders of the country led the country towards its downfall. Sarvajana Balaya is the only political camp that is capable of building that broken trust.
අන්නේ බිඳී ගිය විශ්වාසය ගොඩනගන මේ රටේ කඳවුර වෙන්නේ සර්වජන බලය.
රජයේ පැත්තේ වාඩි වෙන්න නෙවෙයි අපි මේ ඡන්දයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්නේ.
We are not contesting this election to support the incumbent government but to become the country's opposition. The opposition of this country requires people who have a vision for the country's development. Therefore, I request people to support the Sarvajana Balaya to form a powerful opposition in the country.
සර්වජන බලය වටා එකතු වෙන්න.
Leader of the Democratic Left Front, Vasudeva Nanayaka, revealed that his party will support the National People's Power in the upcoming general election. With that, here's a look at more views presented in the political arena ahead of the election.
පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ වැඩි බලයක් ගන්න පුළුවන් කණ්ඩායම තමයි සමගි ජන බලවේගය. මොකද අපි දන්නවා අපි ගෙනියන චින්තනය වැඩපිළිවෙල තමයි මේ රටට හරියන එක කියලා.
අපිට ආණ්ඩුව ඕනේ නැහැ. හැබැයි විපක්ෂ නායකකම බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන අපේ කණ්ඩායම විශාල පළපුරුද්දක් තියෙන කණ්ඩායමක්. ඔය දැන් ආණ්ඩුව ගන්නවා කියන අයට කිසිම පළපුරුද්දක් නැති අය, මිනිස්සු එක්ක ගැවසුන් නැති අය.
මේ කට්ටිය පරාජය හමුවේ වියරු වැටිලා අලුත් බොරු කියමින් දැන් ආපහු මේ රටනම ගයවන්න හදනවා. ඉතින් නොවැම්බර් 14 වෙනිදා මේ රටේ ජනමතයට ගරු කරලා ඔය බොහෝ දෙනෙකුට ගෙදර යන්න වෙනවා.
මේ රටේ 3.5 පහේ හිටපු කණ්ඩායම 42% දක්වා වැඩි කරන්නට පුළුවන් හැකියාව ලැබුණා නම් මං හිතන්නේ අපි වගේ කණ්ඩායමකට මේ මැතිවරණයේදී ඊටත් වඩා හොඳ මට්ටමේ ජයග්‍රහණයක් ගන්න පුළුවන් කියලා පේන.
පොහොට්ටුවෙන් ආපු සිලින්ඩරේ නම ඉස්සරහට දාගෙන ගිහපු කණ්ඩායමට ඡන්දය දෙන්න එක්සත් ජාතික පාක්ෂිකයන් සූදානම් නැහැ. ගම්මනින් එක්සත් ජාතික පාක්ෂිකයෝ දැන් අපේ පක්ෂ නායක සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාස මහත්තයත් සමගි ජන බලවේගයත් එක්ක වැඩ කරන්න අද සියලු දෙනාම සූදානම්ෙන් ඉන්නවා.
මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තු මැතිවරණයේදී අපේ පක්ෂය අපි සහයෝගය දක්වනවා මාලිමාවට. අපේ පක්ෂය තරම් කරන්නේ ජාතික ජන බලවේගයට සහයෝගය පළ කරමි. අපි උත්සාහ කළා ජාතික ජන බලවේගයත් එක්ක සම්බන්ධතාවයක් ගොඩනගාගෙන එකට මේ ඡන්දයේදී තරඟයට ඉදිරිපත් වෙන්න ජනාධිපතිවරණයේදී පවා එබඳු සමීපකමක් ඇති කරගන්න උත්සාහ කළා. නමුත් ඒක සාර්ථක වුණේ නැහැ.
ජනාධිපතිවරණයේදී ਸਰව ජන බලවේගය සමග ගිවිසුම් ගත්තා. දැන් මේ ගිවිසුම් වලට මොකද වෙන්නේ ඊට පස්සේ?
අපි ඇති කරගත්තු ගිවිසුම අපි අත්හැරියා ජනාධිපති ඡන්දයේ ප්‍රතිඵලයත් එක්ක. ජනාධිපති ඡන්දයේ ප්‍රතිඵලය වාමාංශික මහා ජයග්‍රහණයක්. මේ ලබාපු ජයග්‍රහණය පාර්ලිමේන්තු ඡන්දය තුළ තවත් ඉදිරියට ගෙන ආ යුතුයි.
රහිට මෙට පැන්න හුරු කෙනෙක්වත් වරප්‍රසාද වෙන කට්ටිය මන්ත්‍රිකමක් ගන්න බලන් එන කට්ටිය අපිට නෑ. අපි අලුත් දේශපාලන ගමනක් යන අලුත් දේශපාලන සංස්කෘතියක් තියෙන අපිට. ඒකට ගැළපෙන කණ්ඩායමක් එක්ක අපි තරඟට ඇවිත් තියෙන නිසා අපි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ තරඟේ ජයග්‍රහණය කරනවා.
Sri Lanka decides 2024.
Fast track your career from O levels with eSoft.
Welcome back. Now, the Attorney General's Department revealed that another medicine scandal that had taken place during Dr. Kapila Vikramanayaka's tenure as the Director of the Medical Supplies Division of the Health Ministry has incurred a loss of 97.3 million rupees to the government. The department noted that the loss was incurred while procuring 90,000 bottles of the medicine lactulose. Against a backdrop where former Director of the Medical Supplies Division, Kapila Vikramanayaka, has been named as a suspect in the controversial case pertaining to the procurement of substandard human immunoglobulin vials, the Criminal Investigation Department reported facts pertaining to another scandal that took place during his tenure before the Maligakanda Magistrate Court today. Presenting her submission on behalf of the Attorney General, Deputy Solicitor General Lakshmini Girihagama stated that the scandal in question has taken place through the procurement of the medicine lactulose. Girihagam stated that the company named Medicom signed agreements with the Medical Supplies Division of the Ministry of Health to supply lactulose solution for a period of 5 years. With the expiration of the license of the said company, she noted that the company was unable to supply the required medicines for some time in 2023. Girihagama highlighted that the company had informed the then Director of the Medical Supplies Division of the ability to supply a bottle of lactulose at a price of 1,408 rupees and assured him that their license will be renewed soon. The Deputy Solicitor General noted that despite such an assurance, the tender for the supply of lactulose medicine was awarded to a company named Newgen at a rate of 2,490 rupees per bottle. While highlighting that the loss incurred by the government due to awarding the tender to supply 90,000 bottles to the Health Ministry is 97.3 million rupees, Deputy Solicitor General Lakshmini Girihagama requested the magistrate to forward the case to the Bribery Commission and conduct an investigation. Considering the facts presented, Maligakanda Magistrate Lochani Abe Vikrama ordered the Bribery Commission to take the appropriate steps. Later, the case pertaining to the procurement of substandard human immunoglobulin vials was taken up for hearing before the Maligakanda Magistrate Court. During the proceedings, the councillors of the supply of the substandard medicine submitted a bail application to the magistrate. In response, Deputy Solicitor General Lakshmini Girihagama expressed her firm objection to granting bail to the suspect. She stated that the suspect, who was taken for treatment at the National Institute of Mental Health, has been transferred to the prison hospital by a group of prison officials on the 24th of September. Highlighting that this act is suspicious, Girihagama is of the view that there can be a person with special interest who is trying to get him released. Further, the Deputy Solicitor General highlighted the necessity of conducting an investigation against the suspect's transfer from the National Institute of Mental Health to the prison hospital. Taking the facts presented into consideration, Maligakanda Magistrate Lochani Abe Vikrama ordered the supplier of the substandard vials to be remanded until the 22nd of October. The Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy sail training warship Po Lang called at the port of Colombo this morning. The visiting ship on a formal visit to the island was welcomed by the Sri Lanka Navy. Po Lang is a 86-meter-long sail training vessel with a crew comprising 130 personnel, including 35 officer cadets. Sri Lanka Navy officers will have the opportunity to participate in briefings on the operational functions of the vessel. Po Lang will depart from the island on Friday. Welcome back. Senior Professor Harindra Disa Bandara has been appointed as the new chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission of Sri Lanka. Senior Professor Disa Bandara previously served as the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission during the period from 2012 to 2013. He also served as the Director of the Financial Services Academy and Capital Market Education and Training Division of the SEC from 2008 to 2012. Harindra Disa Bandara is a Senior Professor of Finance and Corporate Governance at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura. He takes over from Faisal Saleh, who served as SEC Chairman since his appointment in February 2023. The Colombo Bourse closed in positive territory today. IT stocks saw gains but were offset by losses in healthcare. The all-share price index climbed 0.05%, settling at 12,171.1 points. SMB Finance and Nation Lanka Finance were the top percentage gainers on the SPI, rising 50% each. The S&P SL20 climbed 0.14% to 3,595.73 points. Market turnover fell to 1.39 billion rupees from 2.78 billion rupees in the previous session. The capital goods sector was the top contributor to market turnover, followed by the banking sector. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 52.5 million rupees. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining and have a good night.